Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Middletown. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Ben Florsheim. I have the privilege of serving as the mayor of Middletown and very excited to welcome you all here on this St. Patrick's Day to celebrate and talk about something that we are very proud to be a leader on here in Middletown, which is really right behind me. This is our new electric school bus, newly in service in the city of Middletown, and the product of a really extraordinary partnership that you're going to hear about between our city, our schools, the state of Connecticut, DATCO, our bus operator, and it is the type of project that we would like to see many more of here in our city and expand to all over the state of Connecticut. This was made possible, this bus was made possible by the combination of efforts between the Volkswagen settlement, the efforts of the state DEP, the efforts of our environmental leaders here in Middletown and around the state, including Save the Sound and the League of Conservation Voters, and DATCO, our bus provider, to invest in a technology, an emerging technology that we know is going to be crucial to our climate future. The Transportation Climate Initiative that Governor Lamont is leading the charge to have Connecticut join is going to be what's possible, what's going to make the difference in taking this from a pilot, a one-off project, to something that we can scale all across the state of Connecticut. And it is incredibly important that we act now on this. Vehicles are a huge part of our climate, vehicle emissions are a huge part of our climate emergency. You're going to hear more about that from the other speakers. But we're very excited to be part of the leading edge in this effort here in Middletown. We are thrilled to have this bus in service. We want to have many more like it here in service in our community and around the state. And this partnership is going to help make that possible. So thank you for joining us. We're happy to have it here in Middletown. And I'm going to turn it over now, I believe, to Commissioner Katie Dykes from the state DEP. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a great day to be here. I'm so excited to be with our partners here in the city of Middletown, with our legislative leaders and with Governor Lamont, celebrating this first in the state electric school bus that DEEP was proud to be a part of, but to talk about what this represents, the vision that the city of Middletown has for providing a better future, for cleaner air for our kids, the kids in the city, is a vision that Governor Lamont and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection share. We are excited about the opportunity that we have to make this possible, not just for this bus and the kids that are lucky to ride on this bus, but for every kid in the state of Connecticut. We are here in the state of Connecticut. We care so much about our quality of life. It's what makes Connecticut such a wonderful place to live. That's why I'm here. That's why so many of us are here, because we have great schools, we have great opportunities, we invest in our communities, we invest in our children. We get them up every morning, we get them dressed, we get them fed, we send them off to terrific schools because we care about their future. But we put them into buses that are spewing out diesel emissions, exhaust that is harming their developing lungs. That is contributing in a state that already has significant levels of air pollution. Putting them on these buses is contributing to exacerbating high rates of asthma and respiratory illness. These buses that we're putting their kids, our precious children on, are emitting greenhouse gas emissions that are endangering our climate and endangering our kids' future. Our transportation sector is contributing 2/3 of the local air pollution in our state. And 30% or 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions in our economy. We do not have the tools today that we need to help address those emissions. But those tools are available. Those solutions exist. We're standing right in front of one of them. With the foresight and the great engineering and support that we have from businesses like DATCO and other innovators, these solutions are available, and we can scale up and invest in them if we make the commitment to put the Transportation Climate Initiative program into action. Through Governor Lamont's vision and his leadership, he's brought other states to the table. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C. have said they are going to partner with us if we move forward with this program this year. We will be able to put, for the first time, a cap on emissions limits from transportation fuels. The oil industry has been contributing for years, we know, to air pollution and to greenhouse gas emissions that are dangerously warming our planet. And with this program in place, we will be able to cap emissions and ensure that greenhouse gas emissions reduce 26% from the transportation sector here in our state and around the participating states that are going to move with us with this program. And even more exciting, by putting that cap on emissions and requiring the oil industry to finally contribute to offset some of the harms that their fuels are causing, we will generate $1 billion of investment here in the state of Connecticut that it will be up to us to be able to put to work delivering a healthier and safer future for our kids. With $1 billion, we can take this project. This represented, we were able to do this, support the city of Middletown and the school district here to invest in this school bus with one-time grant available to us through the VW program. There are 6,000 school buses taking our kids to school every morning, every afternoon in the state of Connecticut. With the Transportation Climate Initiative program, with $1 billion of funding finally available, we can move at scale to shift to clean electric school buses for every kid in the state. It's a matter of implementing and moving forward on this vision. And the time is now. The General Assembly is considering whether to allow Connecticut to move forward with our sister states to implement this program. This is an important, a critical moment for our kids, for their health, for the planet. And we think this program will deliver so many more benefits than the costs associated. It makes so much sense, and it's going to catalyze regional action, which is the best way for us to take action on addressing climate change. It is such a critical moment, and we're so excited to have the partnership of Mayor Florsheim, of our leadership here in Middletown, and of our legislative leaders. So many of them are here today, and other partners that understand the vision and the possibility that the Transportation Climate Initiative represents. We know this is especially important for our kids and for our communities that are located along our transportation corridors who are disproportionately affected and overburdened by air pollution. And the Transportation Climate Initiative program has a commitment to invest a minimum of 35% of those revenues to help address and support those overburdened communities. This is going to be transformative for our state, but we have to act now. And it's so exciting to share this vision, this school bus, what Middletown is doing, and how that can be a model and a reality for everyone. So for every school superintendent, for every teacher, for every parent who's watching and listening to the story you're going to hear today about Middletown, my message is this is possible for everyone. This is possible for all of our kids. Our kids deserve a cleaner planet. They deserve healthier air. They deserve a solution to the climate crisis, and we can provide that here in Connecticut. We've been a leader on addressing climate change for years, and this year is a year for us to take a major, important step. I'm really excited about what is possible as we move forward. Public health, of course, is a critical part of why we're doing this, and we have no better partner in addressing the challenges of respiratory illness and asthma and the ways that we can help reduce those harms through our transportation system than at the Department of Public Health. And I'm really excited to first introduce Dr. Marie-Christine Bornacki, who's the asthma program supervisor for DPH, to share a few words about the challenges our kids are facing.
Good morning. My name is Marie-Christine Bornacki. I am the DPH asthma program supervisor. I've been a nurse for many years, and I have certainly seen the progress made in medicine with regards to the treatment of asthma and of many other chronic diseases. However, despite this progress, we still have a lot of public health concerns. One of them is asthma, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that. We, as a Connecticut, we have a high rate of asthma, both for children and adults, and it's higher than the US rate itself. And when we dig deeper into that information, we also learn that there are some subgroups who are even more affected by asthma. For example, we know that our Connecticut African American and Hispanic residents have much higher rates of asthma than the non-Hispanic white residents. We also know that towns of Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, New London, Waterbury, and Wyndham have the highest rates of emergency department visits due to asthma. We know of asthma disparities, and it's affecting, as I mentioned, some of our population. African American children, for example, have the highest rates of hospitalizations across all other children and adult groups in Connecticut. Hispanic adults have 4 times the rate of non-Hispanic white adults for asthma hospitalizations. Certain communities are most burdened by asthma, and that also means being absent from school, from work, and being limited in living a normal life activity. I have heard many stories of parents who have shared that they had lost their jobs because they had to stay home when their children had asthma. And here we are at school, and certainly we all know that asthma is the #1 reason for chronic absenteeism. And absenteeism in school also leads to other problems, and that puts children to be behind others, and there's clearly a need to work on those disparities. We know that transportation-related emissions contribute to air pollution, and research has clearly shown that air pollution can worsen asthma symptoms, leading to acute asthma episodes and also increasing asthma-related emergency department visits. This is very costly also as a society. Air pollution affects not only the lungs, it also affects the immune system, it affects chronic diseases, and it is a threat to many people who have, for example, cardiovascular diseases or diabetes or other chronic conditions. We know that children who are exposed to air pollution are at greatest risk to develop asthma. We have also information that high level of emissions and high rates of emergency departments visit, again related to asthma, have been found in the counties of Fairfield, Hartford, New Haven, New London, and that is something that we will probably share with all of you on our websites. Some communities are at a higher risk of exposure to air pollution than others, and they also experience health disparities. Climate change also worsens asthma. As global warming is happening, it extends the pollen season. And so any of you who have allergies to pollen, to ragweed, to trees, or certain grass, know that the season is much longer than it used to be. And so for children who have asthma related to allergies, that is also a big challenge. Connecticut's efforts toward electric transportation and clean air will definitely impact positively Connecticut's residents' health, reduce exacerbations of asthma symptoms, and improve the quality of life. The Department of Public Health is supportive of the Transportation and Climate Initiative program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I want to introduce our Superintendent of Schools here in Middletown, Dr. Michael Connor.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, everybody. Just hearing the words from everybody just refers back to Dr. Pedro Noguera when he states that if basic needs are not met of students, learning does not occur. And we know that our basic needs, whether it be food, and then now when we hear all the research about air pollution and climate control, how essential that is for students to be able to learn effectively. And initiatives like this, when we talk about innovation, taking a process from inception to impact and matching a solution with a problem, when we have initiatives like this where we have electric buses to be able to curtail the issues of air pollution, our students are going to be healthy. Our students are going to come into school ready to learn. And if we could support initiatives like this in the state of Connecticut, the legislative body be able to pass bills to be able to expand and scale electric buses throughout the state of Connecticut, we are creating a better economy for everybody. So I want to thank the governor for his progressive ideas and initiatives to be able to support this. Don DeVivo for bringing this to Middletown. Always, I consider Middletown to be the leaders of innovation, not just from the instructional dynamic of it, but also from the operational component, and also having a great mayor like Mayor Florsheim. So thank you, Commissioner, for this, and we're hoping to scale this in Middletown and hopefully more broadly in the state of Connecticut. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Superintendent. Next, we want to highlight Don DeVivo from DATCO, who's been an important partner for this project.
Thank you, Commissioner. The school bus is the safest form of transportation in the world, and we just made it safer. And that's what this is all about. It's about getting the kids to school safely and making this vehicle behind us and the transportation that we provide for our children the safest possible. And you know, we were happy to partner with the state and with the city of Middletown and the Board of Education in Middletown to bring this vehicle to Middletown to drive the kids to school for Middletown every day. We're happy to announce that we've got another bus on order. That'll be our first full-size bus. We expect to have that in August. And you know, we hope that this trend continues. There is a gap, however. You know, we were lucky to be able to receive Volkswagen funding for this vehicle, but there's a gap between the price of a diesel or a gas bus like this and an electric bus. Right now, that gap is being filled by the contractors, and we're hoping that we can provide some funding so that we can accelerate the process. And I think, you know, several years ago, if you went and bought a 50-inch television, you paid thousands of dollars for it. And now you can go and buy one for a few $100s. And we think the same thing is going to happen with this technology. As more competition comes into the market, as it is more widespread, as it becomes produced in more mass volume, we're going to see the prices come down. But we've got to get there. We've got to get that product into the market and get the infrastructure in place to support these electric vehicles. So I want to thank the governor again and thank the department, and we really appreciate it, and we want to be on the forefront of making this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And next I want to introduce Senator Christine Cohen, who's the chair of the Environment Committee and has been a terrific champion for the Transportation Climate Initiative Program and all of our efforts to help address climate change and make a healthier environment for our kids. Senator?
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, being here today is really exciting because with this bus, there's been just a tremendous opportunity for the city of Middletown, but it's also really symbolic because it gets at the heart of what this is all about. It gets at the heart of what we're trying to do, and it's all about our kids. It's all about future generations. We know there is a recognition based in science that there will be parts of this state, of this country, that will be inhabitable for our future generations. But we have the opportunity to change course, to mitigate some of what is coming down the pike from climate change. And this represents that. We heard from the commissioner, and I'm sure we'll hear from the governor and others, that we have an opportunity to scale this with the Transportation Climate Initiative. And I'm thrilled as the Senate chair of the Environment Committee to be at the helm of trying to make that happen, pass that through committee, and I'm hopeful that it can happen in a bipartisan way, just as the Transportation Climate Initiative is happening in a bipartisan way, because climate change doesn't know politics. It is not a partisan issue. It is, again, about our future, about future generations. It's about our air quality. It's about being able to enjoy this place that we love so much. So we have this tremendous opportunity to not only reduce emissions, but to create transit-related projects such as this, bringing transportation to cleaner transportation to areas that are traditionally burdened by air quality, places, urban areas where it's becoming increasingly more difficult to just simply breathe the air. We talk about those basic human rights, food, water, air. Okay, so that's what we're really trying to do here. We have an opportunity to improve our health, create jobs, and just create a more sustainable future. So I'm so pleased that the governor has chosen to take on this initiative. So grateful to the Department of Transportation and our Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for leading the way on this. And just so happy to be here today with Mayor Florsheim and all the folks, my colleagues in Middletown, because this is an incredibly symbolic piece of equipment back here, very impressive, and I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to really scale this up and make this happen for the state of Connecticut. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And next, let me introduce someone who's been a great champion for the environment and for Middletown, Senator Matt Lesser.
Thank you, Commissioner Dykes, and thank you to Governor Lamont for his leadership and everything he's done for our city here in Middletown. You know, we are in my neighborhood. I live 3 blocks from here. I walked here this morning, and as I walk around the neighborhood, I walk my dog every day. I push my newborn son around in a stroller. I see kids playing on my stoop and neighboring stoops. The kids who are affected most significantly, the kids who go to the school right behind all of you, the kids who go to school in this neighborhood are the ones who are going to benefit from this program right here. The oil industry, the special interests, they're spending a lot of money to throw up a lot of smoke and a lot of misinformation about the Transportation Climate Initiative. They talk about costs. But when we talk about costs, it's important to think about the costs to the environment, to human health, about having pollution in the neighborhood that I live in and neighborhoods across Connecticut. Because when those kids get sick, the kids that I know in my neighborhood get sick, those are costs that we all have to pay. When kids at McDonough School get sick, those are costs we all have to pay. And what is happening today with this partnership with Dawn at DATCO, with Mayor Florsheim and an extraordinary school leader, Dr. Connor, is a one step towards undoing those costs and making sure that the cost of diesel pollution and the cost of climate change is not passed on to our kids and to their kids. This is an incredibly important moment. And I want to give my hat off to the chair of the Environment Committee, Senator Christine Cohen, who's done just an extraordinary job of making sure that we're focused on the big questions. How can we make sure that we are best positioned to pass on a cleaner, safer, better Connecticut to the next generation? And I could not be prouder to stand with all the folks here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. As we talk about those costs and those burdens, I think it's especially important when we think about this program that there are communities that are bearing a special burden in terms of climate change and air pollution. Our communities of color, communities that are located along our transportation corridors, have for too long been bearing a disproportionate share of the impacts of climate change and poor air quality. And so we've been very grateful for the input and the engagement that we've had from environmental justice advocates, from community leaders who have been working with the Department of Transportation and DEEP on dialogue on how to strengthen this bill and make sure that those communities are at the table and represented, and that we'll be able to give the input and drive the priorities for how that minimum 35% portion of that these investments will directly go back to those communities and help begin to undo those disproportionate burdens. I'm very excited to have Dr. Mark Mitchell from the Connecticut Coalition for Environmental Justice, who's been a leader in talking about bringing this issue of the intersection of public health, environmental justice, racial justice, and climate change to the fore. And thank you for your leadership, Dr. Mitchell, and glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks so much, Governor. This is the first time that we in the environmental justice community have had a place at the table to decide how and when we should be addressing the 3 things that I say that we should be addressing at the same time, and that is climate change, health, and racial equity. We have the opportunity to address all 3 at the same time. I am a public health and environmental health physician. I am a professor of climate change, but I'm also the founder and the senior policy advisor for the Connecticut Coalition for Environmental Justice. We have been invited to the table. I live in Hartford. Hartford and New Haven have some of the highest rates of households that do not have automobiles or do not have cars. Yet we have some of the highest transportation-related air pollution in our cities. I take this personally because I also suffer from asthma, and I am allergic to transportation-related air pollution. I also am, I'm the first person in my family to have asthma, which I got it in my 40s, and I'm also the first person in my family to have coronary artery disease. And I attribute both of these to the air pollution that is in my neighborhood in Hartford, the traffic-related air pollution. So I'm really thrilled that we're going to take some steps to reduce the air pollution, to reduce the diesel. This is a wonderful opportunity, this bus. Diesel contains more than 40 different types of carcinogens. So not only is it an asthma, triggers asthma, but you can measure the particles in the air today and predict how many people are going to die tomorrow because of the direct effects of this air pollution. So I'm thrilled that we're going to be transforming buses, school buses, and hopefully fleets so that we can reduce the amount of traffic-related air pollution in urban areas is what I'm hoping, and along other corridors. A few years back, I worked with Yale to measure the particulates in Hartford and in New Haven. And we found the highest level of particulates near the highways, and also in New Haven along the New Haven Green because of the buses and the pollution that was produced around New Haven Green in the middle of the city. So I am thrilled again, and want to thank again the commissioner, the governor, and all of the folks here for this initiative, and we're very strongly in support of the TCI, the Transportation Climate Initiative. Thank you.
Next, I want to invite Alex Rodriguez to say a few words from Save the Sound. He's been a great champion in helping to support this project and the Transportation Climate Initiative.
Thank you, Commissioner Dykes. Thank you, Governor Lamont, and thank you, Mayor Florsheim, and everybody here. So the Transportation Climate Initiative is a critical vehicle that addresses climate change, improves public health, grows the economy, and supports environmental justice. And we at Save the Sound are very supportive of the legislation that the governor has introduced to support this initiative, SB 884, an act concerning transportation-related emissions. SB 884 will cut transportation emissions in a cost-effective manner based on the regional model that's already been successful in reducing emissions from the electricity sector, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. TCI, SB 884 provides for significant investment in overburdened and underserved communities and establishes an Equity Advisory Board to ensure investments have the most meaningful impact possible. This new electric school bus behind us is one example of the type of high-impact, equitable public health investments that can come if the legislature passes SB 884. Investing in essential transportation solutions such as this and increasing the number of electric vehicles, including school buses, expanding non-polluting and convenient transit options, and establishing necessary infrastructure improvements can all be accomplished if the legislature passes SB 884. TCI will not only lessen climate change, but it will directly improve air quality across the state, and it will play a key role in mitigating the carbon emissions that aggravate respiratory diseases that many children are suffering so much from. This is crucial to the fight that environmental justice leaders such as Dr. Mitchell and many other of our friends have been leading for decades. We want clean air, we want green jobs, and we want justice. And so the Transportation and Climate Initiative is a key investment in Connecticut, and it is an investment in our health, our economy, and our livelihoods. And so Save the Sound, we call on the Connecticut legislature to support SB 884. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for your support. And finally, I want to introduce Governor Lamont. We would not be here today talking about this program without his leadership, bringing other states to the table and bringing this important bill to the General Assembly. So Governor Lamont, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Katie. Frankly, I'm not sure we'd be here without your leadership. But speaking of leadership, Ben, it's great to be back. I mean, what were we here? 10 days ago, Middletown, the first town in the state of Connecticut that has free Wi-Fi hotspots. So if your phone's getting a little tired, you can go right up and beam in your message. And now one of the first to come up with the all-electric bus and what that makes a difference. And Matt, you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot of smoke screens against this bill. And there's an easy one to push back. And the oil guys don't like it very much. And it's the right thing to do. And I really need folks to stand up and fight for this. And Christine knows this better than anybody. I mean, Connecticut's been a leader in the environment, and we're going to continue to be a leader. We're going to stand up to those who say no, stand up to those who make up. This is, a small tax on carbon, and it's capped at 5 cents. And all the nonsense you've heard, this can make an enormous difference for our state going forward. And I want Connecticut to be a leader. And I had occasion to talk to the man formerly known as Mayor Pete. Now he's Secretary Pete, Secretary of Transportation. And he just emphasized how transportation and climate are going to be hand in hand as part of their strategy going forward. And there's going to be significant federal resources to make sure we can do more projects just like this, as long as we have a recurring revenue stream that allows Connecticut to pay its 20% copay on this. And this is not an opportunity we want to miss. And you heard about asthma. As I looked at COVID over the last year, you could see it march right down the I-95 Metro North corridor, following major arteries. And you also realized those are the very same places in our state that are most likely to be impacted by asthma. We're a dense state. We have some of the highest asthma inflections of anywhere in the country. And the correlation between complications related to COVID and asthma are severe. And it's just one more reminder what that means for our communities, what that means for our kids, what that means for public health, and why we're doing this, and why I need everybody's shoulder to the wheel. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to an old friend who thought he had retired from politics, but just can't quite kick the habit. That's the former Speaker of the House, Joe Arasimowicz. Thanks for being here, my friend. But I do think this is extraordinarily important for the state. It's not an easy vote for the legislature. A lot of these votes aren't easy, but this will make a transformative difference for our kids, for our families, for public health. And Katie's already got our electric grid is almost carbon-free, but we got to do a better job in our transportation sector, and this is the first step. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for being here today, and we can take a few questions if you have any.
I was just looking up the price here, and maybe the gentleman from DACO can help us out here. It looks like, at least from what I see, a full-size electric school bus will cost $350,000, I'm seeing one quote.
full-size.
A full-size one, and a diesel will cost $110,000. That sounds about right?
Pretty accurate.
So you've got 6,000 buses, so to go to all electric, that's a sizable chunk of change.
Big number, I couldn't do it in my head.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I did it right on my calculator, so I'm not using the figure. Is it affordable?
Well, I think
Can
as
you
I...
go to the mic?
No, sure. I think, as I said before, the prices we're looking at today are the first products that are out of the market. I mean, we've got a bus on order from Navistar that's going to be here in August. I think it's the 4th bus off the line of their electric program. They had a prototype. They had one that's going to California. I'm not sure where the 3rd one's going, and we've got the 4th one coming here to Connecticut. So we're very early in the process. And as I said earlier, you know, several years ago, if you went and bought a 50-inch television, you paid $5,000, and now you can go to a big box store and buy one for $349. And I think the same thing is going to happen with this. The big cost in this bus right now is the batteries. And there's people all over the world. The new models coming out, I think, are BMW batteries. Our technical experts are back there. They can probably, yeah, BMW, yeah. And you know, so people all over the world are working on the battery technology. This bus has 5 batteries. Each of them are over $20,000. So when the price of that battery comes down, they're talking about solid state batteries now. You know, that's going to change the cost dynamic. So I don't think you can extrapolate the cost of the first bus out to the 6,000. You know, it's gonna change, that dynamic is gonna change dramatically.
That bus takes 5 batteries or a full-size bus?
Ronnie, you're the...
What was the question? Does this take 5 batteries, and how many batteries does a full-size bus take?
The full-size bus is gonna have 3 batteries, but they're much larger.
Okay.
This one has 4.
This one has 4, I'm sorry, okay.
If I could, add to that, what we're talking about, this dynamic here for the transportation sector is exactly the kinds of things we were talking about when we launched the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative for the electric power sector, a decade ago. Because, we've seen by putting the programs in place, we send the signal to the market that the demand is going to be here at scale. Solar panels, for example, are just like the TV example. Years ago, the prices were, 5 times, 10 times higher. Because states have been moving, because we put these programs in place, we've told the industry the demand is here, and now the solar is cheaper than natural gas. It's cheaper than all of these fossil-based power sources, because we've created the leadership to create the market, to drive the incentives, drive the technology. The cost is just a factor of not having the policies in place in many ways. The federal government is going to be moving, supporting the technology development, supporting the manufacturing, making these costs lower, tax incentives, all sorts of things from the federal level. The Public Utilities Regulatory Authority here in Connecticut has been leading on an electric vehicle docket that's going to provide competitive rates for the electricity and a process for the utilities to be able to cover some of the costs of building out the plugs, the outlets, to be able to charge these buses. That's another critical piece of the puzzle that's coming into place because of the great leadership of Chairman Marissa Gillette and others at PURA. And now with the Transportation Climate Initiative, the next missing link is putting that cap on emissions to tell the whole transportation sector that this is where we're going, and to create the funding that we can put into the hands of Mayor Florsheim, in the hands of our wonderful superintendents all across the state to help fill those gaps, to cover the delta, cover that increased cost where the technology is currently on the electric buses. But we know that when we can do this on a statewide level, we can buy in bulk. We can leverage our purchasing power in a much different way to make this affordable. Already we've seen, in talking with fleet owners, looking within our own fleets within the state of Connecticut, the operation and maintenance costs for an electric vehicle is much lower than an internal combustion engine. You don't have to get an oil change with an EV. And so we're already seeing that implementing electric vehicles across fleets is more cost effective than purchasing internal combustion engines. This makes sense. It is affordable. We just have to have that important puzzle piece of that funding available here in our state to help support our leaders at the municipal level to get these solutions in place for our kids.
You mentioned the full full-size bus on order. Would that serve the Middletown community or a different community?
That's the plan, yep.
Perhaps the two senators, you're here obviously because you support this initiative. I'd like to hear, what are you hearing from your colleagues who are either opposed to this initiative or on the fence on this initiative? What are the concerns and objections you're hearing from your colleagues about this initiative?
Thanks, Paul. I mean, we just had the public hearing recently, so we haven't passed this out of committee yet. We'll be working to caucus it and gain a little bit more understanding about where our colleagues stand on the issue. We heard mostly in opposition from service station owners, but by and large, that hearing was incredibly positive because there are such tremendous benefits to this. Like I said, there's job creation. We're talking about good air quality. We're talking about mitigating the impacts of climate change for future generations. So we heard over and over again really positive testimony in that committee public hearing, and I'm hopeful that that resonated with a lot of our colleagues. I mean, we're hearing a lot of misinformation, and we need to dispel that information. That's up to us, the supporters of the initiative. I'm sure the governor and his team, as well as Commissioner Dykes, as well as the DOT, will be working hard to dispel some of the myths associated with this, like the misnomer gas tax. This is absolutely not a tax. And so we need to get out there. That's on us to do that, and I intend to be on the road touting the benefits of this program and its bipartisan nature. So thank you.
Yeah, and as I said before, we've heard a lot of misinformation, as Senator Cohen just mentioned, from the industry. Some of our colleagues have heard misinformation as well. And so one of the things that she's doing a very good job of is educating individual colleagues about what the actual program is, what the Transportation Climate Initiative is. And it's one thing to talk about the costs, but one of the things that I'm lucky about representing Middletown is having real local leaders like the incredible Dr. Connor here working with Mayor Florsheim to showcase the benefits. And I think that's what we're talking about right here, is that it's not just about costs, it's about reinvesting in our communities, lowering healthcare costs. I hear every day, I'm the chair of the insurance committee, I hear about healthcare costs every day. I just met with a local hospital just about an hour ago. We hear about healthcare costs. This is about saving healthcare costs. This is about investing in our communities. And when we talk about the benefits, I think people will really start to see that this is a worthy initiative and worth a good conversation. So I think that's a process, and we're beginning it, and I think we're making some headway.
Governor, yesterday you made the case again here today that you need this transportation initiative to help, this particular initiative to help pay for transportation going in the future. Are you finding that's an argument that is gaining traction?
Well, I hope so. Look, we borrowed an awful lot of money over the last 40 years for some good purpose in the Transportation Fund. All of our gas tax revenues, which is how we raise money for the fund, go to pay off that long-standing debt. So if you want to take advantage of the new resources we got, if you want to be able to buy more all-electric vehicles and move our transportation system this way, you've got to be able to pay for it. So we've come up with some solutions that I think make a fair amount of sense. The Transportation Climate Initiative is the first one. We're doing this in conjunction with our neighboring states, so we're not going to put our state at a competitive disadvantage. And we also have a highway user fee for just the major tractor-trailer trucks that go through our state. Same type of thing that New York, for example, is doing, which again will allow us to fix our roads and bridges, end the gridlock on a lot of our roads, end those trucks that are idling there, what that means in terms of asthma, and can make an enormous difference. So it's going to take some push. Hope we get there.
And another thing that you mentioned to the CBA, you seem to support these two initiatives, but then sort of throw some cold water on some other tax changes that perhaps these two senators here are supporting. In order to get this over the finish line, is there going to be some sort of, are you expecting that there's going to be some sort of horse trading on taxes? I mean, if you want this, and I'll just throw out the mansion tax, because that's one that seems to be in the 1% drop.
No, I don't think so, Paul. I mean, I was a strong supporter of the American Rescue Act that passed. It's going to represent billions of dollars to the state of Connecticut. And I'll be sitting down with Matt and Christine, legislative leadership, in terms of how we can prioritize those investments, what they can make in terms of a difference for social services, what a difference they can make for kids who have been out of school, what a difference they can make in terms of workforce development. You know, my job is to make sure that money is invested properly. I don't think we need to raise taxes for the sake of raising taxes.
Just to be clear, what is the cost of this particular bus, not the full size?
About 280.
280 grand for this? And if you had a diesel of this size, it would cost what? 80,000? And this is literally the first in the state, or first with your company, or first statewide?
First in the state.
First in the state.
It's one of the first in the country, actually.
Collins is the manufacturer?
They are, and the power system is made by a company called Motive, M-O-T-I-V.
And you got, tell me about the subsidies, it costs 280, did you, tell me about the subsidies.
So the grant we received was for 40% of the vehicle. So that left us around just under $100,000 short between the cost of a vehicle and the cost of this vehicle with the grant.
The grant was federal money or?
State.
State.
Right, so we have, at DEEP, we're administering a fund we've invested more than $18 million through a fund that we received from a settlement with Volkswagen for violations that they incurred several years ago related to their NOx emissions. So those are one-time monies. It's a significant amount of money, but it's not a sustainable amount of funding. But through that, we've been able to contribute $123,000 towards the cost of this project. And we are continuing to put, we'll be issuing our next round of grant funding from those dollars on April the 1st. So look forward to putting that out on the street so we can do some more projects like this, but we want to be able to scale beyond the sort of demonstration phase to have sustainable funding to do more projects like this. The other thing that we could do if we had electric buses like this at scale, particularly school buses that may be parked during the summer, is that those batteries can be plugged into the grid and provide some really valuable services to the electric grid, generate revenue that could offset some of these costs. There's so much potential that we can do.
Not quite there yet, but that could work. I mean, you
At
could
scale.
actually, in an emergency, plug a vehicle like this into a fire station and run the fire station.
So these are really, you know, you think about this as a school bus, but it's so much more than a school bus in terms of resilience and the way that it can support the grid. And that's what we can do when we can do these projects at scale.
Governor, can we just ask you about Friday real quick? Restaurants reopening for a little more, especially with the numbers creeping up yesterday. How are you feeling? We've got St. Patrick's Day today, March Madness coming up.
We didn't open up 100% on St. Patrick's Day. Sorry about that, but it is a wonderful day, and hope you're getting paid to wear that hat, Chris. Look, Friday we're going to be opening up at 100%, opening up at 100% with masks, opening up at 100% with social distancing. You're right, our trend line in terms of infections has been going down fairly consistently now for weeks. It ticked up a little bit yesterday. It's back down again today. So I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over day-to-day shifts. We're still watching the trend. And the number one metric right now, as I've said, is for me is hospitalizations. Because we have the overwhelming majority of the folks who are most likely to suffer complications from COVID have been vaccinated. Those are the folks over the age of 55. We'll be getting to the next age group within a couple of days.
Any thoughts for UConn and UHart going into March Madness?
Yeah. Hey, we're having March Madness. Aren't you happy about that? I am. I really missed it last year. And let's, first of all, for University of Hartford, they haven't been there in a generation, right? So come on, this is great. This is the beginning of something really special. University of Connecticut men, they deserve to be back there. They always should be back there. They're one of our champion teams, and I'm really happy to see them back. And the women are going to soar, #1 rated in the country. And Gino, we want you back, but they're going to soar anyway.
Governor, Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, Massachusetts, just announced, I think either yesterday or this morning, that they're getting 8,000 doses of the J&J. I think Monday you guys said you're not expecting any deliveries of the J&J vaccines next week. Has that changed in the last couple of days?
I think that has changed. I think we are getting a big increase in J&J, some next week, big increase by the end of this month.